And I think what we need more of is compassion, understanding, and empathy. And I also believe it's important to, regardless of whether there is an oppressor or an oppressed, to acknowledge hurt where it exists and in whom it exists. And I think men are hurting overall. So I don't use the word toxic masculinity because I also think it's become enmeshed with identity politics.
Blake Lively is facing accusations that she's misusing the discovery process to dig for irrelevant intel. She's being called out for what legal experts describe as a fishing expedition, allegedly aiming to obtain confidential details about Jed Wallace's clients. The claim is that she's trying to connect the dots between their experiences and her own to piece together a narrative of a coordinated smear campaign. A letter sent to the court from Yet's legal team, along with a string of emails exchanged between his attorneys and Blake's read somewhat humorously. At the same time, Wallace may be on the verge of dismissal. Blake has a critical deadline today. She's expected to submit a 2-page document demonstrating how Jed Wallace is tied to the broader scheme and proving that something he did directly impacted New York, giving the court jurisdiction over him. So far, her argument looks shaky. What's strange is that Blake is being allowed to respond here, whereas during Dustin Baldoni's motion to dismiss, many questions went unanswered, and he wasn't granted the same opportunity to clarify his role. It gives the impression of judicial bias. And since this is happening in the Southern District of New York, a district known for its influence and high-profile corruption, it raises even more eyebrows. Other federal courts often cited for similar issues include those in Los Angeles and Chicago. Now, what's the deal with Jed Wallace? A letter addressed to the judge from Jackson Walker LLP attorney Joel Glover, who represents Wallace, lays out disputes over deposition topics. If you've ever been through a deposition, you know it's grueling. A deposition typically includes a court reporter, the opposing attorneys, and potentially your own legal team. Others may also observe. Blake, Ryan, or even Justin Baldoni could technically sit in. The opposing attorneys can ask deeply personal or embarrassing questions because no judge is present to intervene in real time. The only safeguard is your lawyer raising objections, but you're still required to answer. Afterward, the court reviews the objections and decides which ones to uphold or reject. You're essentially forced to answer everything, relevant or not, which can be emotionally exhausting. Wallace's deposition is currently scheduled for July 9th. The lawyers are at odds over topics 210 and 13, specifically her request for the full list of his clients from 2023 to now. Wallace is pushing back hard, saying disclosing those names would violate client trust. Many of these clients are high-profile individuals and major corporations who rely on his crisis management firm, Street, for deeply private matters. His services often involve helping clients through addiction, mental health struggles, or other sensitive crises, none of which should be exposed in court. Every client enters into confidentiality agreements with Street, and Wallace insists their anonymity is essential. His crisis management work primarily revolves around Hollywood elites dealing with personal challenges. While not a medical provider, Wallace's role is to assemble and oversee treatment teams, ensuring clients meet the expectations of studios, networks, or labels. His job isn't clinical, but logistical. It's odd that he's even wrapped up in this lawsuit, considering his usual line of work. His name also came up in the Bam Margera situation. He helped manage Bam's care while he was working on Jackass, having been brought in by Johnny Knoxville and Paramount. He even submitted declarations in that case, while Bam is one known client. The rest remain unidentified. Wallace is standing firm. He won't expose his client list to Blake or the court. According to his team, the information she's demanding has no bearing on any of her current claims. Wallace has already stated under oath that Street never engaged in the misconduct Blake describes. Yet in conferences, Blake said her goal was to uncover patterns among these clients, their services, and the online narratives surrounding them, hoping to support her theory of a wider, targeted smear effort. There's no concrete link between these allegations and Street relations. Since his primary work centers on assisting individuals facing health, mental wellness, and addiction crises, he's not in the business of orchestrating smear campaigns. He also reportedly runs a secondary operation where he monitors online behavior of people undergoing crises. However, the services he was hired for didn't involve speculative investigations. He wasn't brought on board to craft narratives, manage websites, engage in public dialogue, or make posts. The arrangement was strictly a more hands-off approach, which is reflected in the quoted pricing shared with Wayfair, including a breakdown of what was covered. Blake suspects they opted for the more expensive package that would include a digital task force, but that wasn't the case. Essentially, Lively is trying to compare Street's past client services with her own situation in hopes of finding similarities, existing no such parallels existing. The lack of evidentiary value, combined with significant privacy risks, justifies the court stepping in. Due to the nature of Lively's argument, even limiting disclosures to attorneys only would violate the confidentiality these clients expect, and wouldn't protect them from future sweeping discovery tactics already seen in this case. Blake Lively has been utilizing the court system to push the boundaries of the subpoena process, delving into people's private lives in ways rarely witnessed in litigation. The effort and breadth of her demands and the private individuals being dragged into the mess are astonishing. Her pursuit of a theory that remains unprovable is affecting people who've done nothing wrong. It's not a position anyone would want to be in. Street highlighted these concerns during a meeting with opposing counsel on June 16th and again in a follow-up email on June 18th. As a middle ground, Street offered to identify clients by general categories like filmmakers, actors, or private citizens. Additionally, he agreed to provide testimony about the kinds of services his firm delivers without naming any clients. But Lively wasn't satisfied and declined the offer, choosing instead to pursue a broader hunt for evidence she herself admits might not even exist. Legal precedent in this jurisdiction is clear. Discovery should not extend into speculative areas, simply because something might one day become relevant. While Street may have assisted a number of individuals and entities, from 2023 onward, revealing their identities offers no factual weight to support or undermine Lively's claims. He is open to speaking about his work as it pertains to this case, but is committed to protecting other clients whose situations have nothing to do with this lawsuit. His counsel referenced a legal principle: courts shouldn't allow disclosure of names tied to relevant matters, while simultaneously denying requests on grounds of irrelevance. Lively is only allowed to pursue evidence that directly supports or refutes claims made in the suit, and such discovery must be appropriately scaled to the scope of the case. Given both the privacy involved and the minimal relevance, the identities of unrelated clients should remain shielded. Even with good intentions, seeing confidential information can make it hard to forget or ignore it. Lawyers even pointed to a prior ruling to emphasize the risk of sharing sensitive data. They argued that even if details don't go public, word could spread through artistic circles via rumors or whispers, ultimately causing harm without immediate traceability. And if client names are exposed, Street Relations' reputation could take a hit, damaging the trust future clients would place in them. Street's team emphasized that he made a promise to these clients that their identities would never be revealed, and that confidentiality is at the core of the work he does. Now Lively is pushing for him to violate that promise. That's why his attorney is requesting the court to issue a protective order barring the release of client names. To support their case, they included their communication with Blake's legal team, which was unusually humorous, thanks to a bit of sass from Street's lawyer. During these meet and confer sessions, it's common for attorneys to trade written notes summing up discussions. Blake's team sent a summary, and Street's counsel responded in green text. One such note recapped topic 2, where Street's counsel expressed concern that listing clients would breach their confidentiality. They also argued that labeling the transcript confidential or attorney's eyes only wasn't enough. Blake's team countered that the identities of Street's clients were crucial to her conspiracy allegations and the theory of a continued campaign against her. She believes these details might reveal a pattern in Street's service history, and the public discourse around those clients possibly mirroring her own experience. Essentially, Lively wants to prove that other clients face similar issues, or that people close to those clients did, as part of establishing a pattern in Street's business. she believes this could significantly support her claims. Street Relations and Jed Wallace have largely denied any role in the digital campaign Blake Lively claims was carried out against her. From our review of the applicable legal standards, it's clear that customer information can sometimes be disclosed, Evan, when confidentialist, especially under protective designations, which we've already proposed. Since the questioning is confined to a narrow time frame, and we see no meaningful potential harm from sharing such pertinent information, we don't believe there's a solid basis to block the disclosure of Street Relations client identities. Please let us know if you agree with this, or if you intend to file a protective order to limit the questioning about Street's clientele from January 2023 to the present. Wallace's attorney replied, "This is Jet's counsel. To start, we maintain that the identity of Street's other clients holds no relevance to Lively's claims against Street in this matter. I asked why Ms. Lively needs specific names instead of broad classifications, like actors, filmmakers, civilians, or even, jokingly, dog catchers, and I noted that Street is prepared to testify on the services it provides. Based on your explanation, it seems Lively wants to investigate unrelated Street clients, none of whom are identified or implicated in this suit, just to try stitching together some theory she believes mirrors her own experience. We do not consent to allowing Street or its clients to be subjected to this sort of speculative probing. While customer names might be fair game in different legal contexts with different goals, we don't believe they are in this one, and considering what's been described, seems even strict confidentiality labels wouldn't shield Street's business from the harassment and undue burden her approach creates. When asked about confidentiality agreements, Street's attorney confirmed they do exist with clients, but he added, "I'm open to learning more, please send the relevant case law your team referenced that supports discovery for this kind of exploratory pattern hunt. Based on that, we may need to formally request court protection on the matter." For topic 3. Lively's team wanted to clarify whether they were seeking records from Jackson Walker LLP in its capacity as litigation counsel for Street. The response was simple. Confirmed, they are not. That means, unlike Brian Friedman's firm, Jackson Walker LLP won't be subjected to subpoenas. Regarding topics 10 and 30, the team asked why Street's work with other clients is relevant. The response? Same as topic 2, and they asked for the names of designated representatives for Street Relations. The reply, "We'll provide those after resolving the issues around topics 2, 10, and 13. Lastly, Lively's team pointed out that Street Relations and Wallace hadn't yet submitted their initial disclosures under Federal Rule 26A. These were overdue, and according to Lively's side, the delay is causing her significant disadvantage. The opposing counsel said they'd deliver the disclosures within 48 hours, despite the Juneteenth holiday, by no later than June 23rd. "Same great," was the succinct reply. His emails had a dry humor, and the exchanges were almost entertaining. Ultimately, the legal team is asking the court to issue a protective order, so Street isn't compelled to release the confidential identities of its clients. The argument boils down to this. Blake Lively has no solid evidence. She just suspects that other clients may have used Street for the same purpose she believes Baldoni did, which involves subtly spreading false narratives about her online through indirect and untraceable means. Her intent is to pore over internet records and social media behavior to try to support this idea by finding a pattern among Street's other clients, which doesn't quite make sense when you consider that most of what Street does involves helping people get addiction or mental health care. She's chasing a theory, but that theory isn't even included in her official complaint. It feels like a stretch, but Discovery is known for casting a wide net. Still, when Wayfair attempted to obtain information from Edgeworth, the other side argued attorney-client privilege and work product doctrine to block it. In this case, Street isn't claiming attorney-client privilege or protected work product. He's only citing confidentiality agreements with clients, which may or may not be enough to shield the identities in court. Whether or not the court forces disclosure remains to be seen. That said, if she is successful in getting those names, there's a real risk of dragging unrelated people into a lawsuit they have nothing to do with, effectively turning them into a media sideshow. The potential damage is high, especially since those names might not even be relevant. The connection between Street's other clients and this lawsuit is even more tenuous than the theories lively floated involving Taylor Swift. Remember that? You've heard about how Taylor Swift's name got dragged into this? What Blake is really attempting here is to pry into Jed Wallace's celebrity client list in hopes of using those high-profile names to support her outlandish theory. Proving it would be tough, especially considering his stance. He insists he wasn't involved in any wrongdoing, so even reviewing his client records wouldn't turn up what she's hoping to find. He's already submitted a declaration, and Blake's team has acknowledged that he denies having taken part in any of the alleged conduct. Now, based solely on his denial, they want access to a list of unrelated clients just to prove he's lying. It's a bizarre and aggressive request. With Judge Lyman overseeing the matter, the outcome is unclear. One would hope the judge respects the privacy of these individuals, especially if they sought discreet support for personal struggles. But since Jed isn't a licensed healthcare professional, can't claim the protections of medical confidentiality. Still, what this move really suggests is that Blake lacks concrete evidence. And it also shows she's ready to go to great extremes, not just to pressure the defendants, but to target anyone connected to them. From where I stand, this doesn't seem about proving wrongdoing. It looks more like an attempt to force disclosure. That kind of move is reputationally damaging. Imagine if a journalist were compelled to name sources, they'd lose credibility fast. Similarly, if Jed is forced to hand over private information under court order, it will signal to future clients that their trust is not guaranteed. They'll question whether their names could be exposed in the next legal battle. And since Jed isn't a doctor, he can't rely on doctor-patient privilege for protection. Yet many of his clients do seek his help organizing treatment plans. He doesn't provide the care himself, but instead arranges the entire setup. Identifies the medical providers, sets the schedule, coordinates therapy and appointments, serves as the point person who relays updates to the studio or employer. It's a three-way agreement involving the client, Street Relations, and the company funding the rehab or mental health treatment. And if Blake does manage to get her hands on that list, the damage could be severe. Jed might never work in that space again. The moment clients learn that confidentiality is compromised, they'll take their business elsewhere. That's why it seems her real goal is to collapse his entire operation. She's not simply trying to win the case. She's aiming to undermine the foundation of his business model. Without successful discovery, she's pivoting to sabotage his professional relationships. Her tactic is to make him look untrustworthy, as though any mistake could lead to their names being exposed. And for someone working behind the scenes in crisis coordination, that kind of reputation hit is lethal. We'll see how this plays out. But based on what we know, Blake's target isn't just Jed's actions, its entire career. She's going after it without solid proof.